Hello? Test, test. Oh, rise and shine, folks. We're going to game 3 already. We're starting off the EUIC co-stream. I'm not actually doing this super long. I've got about like 2-ish hours. So I'm going to watch as many games as I can. We're going to catch up on the first 2 rounds as well. I got to work today, but my plan is to co-stream all of day 2, as well as the championship Sunday. But you know, I was like, I might as well try to get adjusted to the time. And so, yeah, I am. And so, yeah, we are already getting into it. It's game 3 right now. And I'll watch game 1 and 2 after this one, but I want to watch live. And I caught a little bit of game 2. It looked like Paul was actually in a pretty tough spot. But Juan like missed the KO onto Amoongus with Astro Barrage, and then Paul was able to go for a really cool like clear smog play onto himself. But yeah, we'll rewatch all the games that I haven't seen live yet, but we're just getting right into game 3. Really good matchups in this tournament so far. This is the largest Pokemon tournament ever in the VGC side, and it's going to be Insane Calyrex for Juan against Insane plus Ice Rider from the opposing side. So the dynamic of this matchup is obviously very Calyrex-centric, but Amoongus has been a really critical piece for both players in this matchup as well. For Juan, his goal is to ideally get a couple of those nasty plots up. You're not going to get those one-hit knockouts with Astro Barrage very easily, and so yeah, Juan here and Paul both obviously having Fake Out available. Paul's almost always going to go for the Terra immediately with Ice Rider just to get around the Shadow Rider is super effective damage from Astro, because Astro with Life Orb, even without a nasty plot, just does so much damage. So in this matchup, like, it makes a lot of sense for both players to just Terra their Calyrex, because otherwise you're facing a huge threat from the opposing side. And so the question really is, can Juan get set up, right? And I think Pollen Puff is a really big deal in this matchup. I wasn't live streaming, but I watched game 2. And I saw that Pollen Puff was a really, really huge, and also, yeah, I do have the chat up, so good morning, hello, welcome to everyone tuning in. Just Fake Out Astro Barrage here from Juan's end, saying, you know what, I'm just going to get damage on the board here rather than go for a nasty plot, which makes sense. I think the downside is you see that Astro Barrage not even doing half to the Ice Rider here, so Glacial is going to do a really hefty chunk on the opposing side. Juan decides not to go for Terra there because he's going to go for Fake Out onto the Incineroar instead. This is kind of scary for Juan, honestly. I mean, his Calyrex is already so low. So you're kind of just one attack away from getting knocked out right now. I think if, you know, the Astro were doing over 50% on turn 1, I like that a little bit more. Juan may have been hoping that Paul would have just gambled and like non-gone for a Terra here with his Ice Rider on turn 1, but Paul's just going to protect his Ice Rider. It's just going to be another Astral here. So, I mean, Juan leaving his Calyrex Shadow Rider exposed. The Insta is going to take okay damage here, but it still hangs on with a hefty amount. And the knockoff, yeah, Juan just going all in on trying to knock out Ice Rider this turn, and Paul kind of just goes for a safe protect play. And Juan just loses his Shadow Rider. I mean, this is a really, really good start for Paul, in my opinion. Mr. Truffle says, say pineapple if you're reading the chat. You know, I'm not a big pineapple fan, but pineapples. Okay, I think Juan here was just trying to play really aggressive, and this is one of those examples where it's like Paul's just kind of going for the safe play, I would say. I think on turn 1 of the game, Juan may have been expecting Paul to just go for a Trick Room rather than Glacial Lance. If you Trick Room, then you can protect your Shadow Rider next turn. And then, like, try to pivot in Amoongus to pressure with Spore. But I feel like Juan's team obviously really values Shadow Rider. And so Shadow Rider going down that quickly is not good news. You do have the Urshifu here, but Urshifu is really bad into, the Amoongus and the Raging Bolt. Like, I don't want to call the game yet, but I think that Paul's in such a good position. Your mic is cutting in and out. Okay, last time this happened, can you try refreshing the stream and letting me know? Otherwise, I'll see if there's anything I can do. Try refreshing, guys, if you're running into that problem. Anyway, I think Urshifu here, yeah, like this is just such a safe double switch in for Paul, right? Neither really takes much from close combat or surging. So you can reset. Covert Cloak, not super important right now. But yeah, you can bring in the Ensign once again for an Intimidate. And once you get this Intimidate off, like Urshifu's close combat just doesn't do too much damage. Paul doesn't mind taking like 50% on any of his Pokemon because a Pollen Puff will basically be able to negate all that damage. This turn, Juan obviously does have damage pressure onto the Amoonguss slot. So Paul decides, you know what? I'm happy to Psycho out here. Like the key thing for Juan here is you do have your Terra still available. You didn't commit that Terra with Calyrex Shadow Rider in the beginning of that game. But the question is, how much value can you get out of your Terra? How do you deal with this Raging Bolt? You're going to need to knock off Parting Shot into it. Close combat's a good start here. Need to avoid it getting crit. No crit there. No Terra either. Oh, and Draco, yeah, just into Earth should one-shot it. I think, like, Juan just, like, Shadow Rider is such an important piece for his team, and he just gave it up in 2 turns in this game 3, right? So he's trying to play really aggressive and just trade Shadow Rider for Ice Rider, but Paul, like, could make the pretty safe play without very much consequence, and Juan, like, not going for Protect. And Amoonguss is the last one here. Like, yeah, this duo is just not going to be able to do enough damage and win the game. I think, like, with Shadow Rider teams, especially balanced ones like Juan's, like, so much of your offense hinges on Shadow Rider specifically. Yeah, that's just GG. Wow, okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I think this game really just hinged off Shadow Rider, and Shadow Rider was not able to do enough in this one. So let's rewatch the other games first. But I want to see what other Pokemon Paul had available, or sorry, Juan had available to him in this matchup, because it felt like Amoonguss and Urshifu really just didn't do anything for him, right? So Champa would have offered a little bit more offense in this matchup. It's actually not bad into Raging Ball and Shadow Rider, honestly, so this is bringable into the matchup. Rilla feels really bad into Ice Rider generally. You do have Fire Terra, but you normally want to Terra the Shadow Rider. But yeah, okay, let's rewatch this Game 1 and Game 2. And I got to catch a little bit of the Game 2, which was really sick. But this is also a new take on Shadow Rider. Like, people have been using Chempao a little bit more with it recently. Like, normally you would expect, I don't know, something like Raging Bolt in this slot. Otherwise, pretty classic stuff. Ensign, Amoonguss, Rilla, Ursh. And then on Paul's side of the field, this Ice Rider team reminds me a little bit of, like, the Shiliang Tang, Justin Tang Ice Rider team with the Landorus. But, yeah, pretty classic stuff here. Nothing too crazy in terms of Pokemon picks. Scarf Landorus, seeming like something that a lot of people have been using. Yeah, this Taunt Urshifu being used a ton right now. Assault Vest Raging Bolt, still just a valuable pick with that Snarl specifically. And then the no Protect Amoonguss here means you can clear Smog to deal with, for example, Dondozo and other stat boosts, and then also Self Pollen Puff. So let's scroll back and watch this set. Okay. So game 1 here, Paul goes for Ensign Ice Rider against Ensign Ursh on the opposing side. I think, yeah, like, Water Terror here, you kind of just always have to go for, because otherwise you face so much damage. And it's fine because, like, Juan doesn't have that much that can take advantage of the Water Terra. If Juan brought Rillaboom into the matchup, like, that's one thing you could do, which is, like, force Paul to Water Terra with Ice Rider immediately, then bring out Rillaboom. But Rillaboom just doesn't feel like the most intuitive Pokemon to bring in this matchup because, 1, you're staring down an Ice Rider, which can Glacial Lance you, and 2, Paul has Incineroar as well. So this is one of the many reasons why Water Terra is a pretty good one on the Ice Rider, because Grass is one of those types that hits you for a lot, but you have a lot of Grass coverage. So yeah, Juan here making a relatively safe turn 1 play. Like, it's really free to fake out Surging. But I think, like, Bolt here is also just a really strong offensive option for Paul in this matchup, right? And you can see that Paul here is willing to just click Glacial Lance, despite both of Juan's Pokemon actually resisting it. And partially, part of the reason for this is because it just covers for whatever can switch in really easily, right? Bolt right now is really well positioned, and yeah, one thing that's key in this matchup is that Juan's Incineroar doesn't have Will-O-Wisp. Will-O-Wisp makes this matchup a lot easier because with safety goggles, you can ignore Amoonguss, and Juan actually decides to just straight go for Surging Strikes here onto the Ice Rider on turn 2 of this game. So it's not going to do a ton of damage here, and this is why that Water Terra is so valuable, of course. But what Juan's goal is here is to just distribute enough damage where then your Shadow Rider can come out. But like the stray doesn't feel that great, right? The key thing here, though, is that Juan doesn't want to just switch out the Urshifu, for example, into your Shadow Rider and then eat up like a Thunderbolt plus Glacial Lance combination. So Paul could have gone for high horsepower here, but the idea behind Glacial Lance is to cover for any potential switch-ins. So I like Paul's position a little bit more here. You do get the Shadow Rider out, though, which means now you pressure with Astral. Paul having Snarl is actually a really big deal on Bolt here as well, I think, because you can protect or just attack here. Plus, it looks like, oh, this is interesting. Okay. So I think Paul's saying, look, I am just going to go on the offensive here. It's risky because you do face Astral Barrage plus Knockoff immediately right now onto your Ice Rider. But one of the things that's really scary here is if you protect your Ice Rider, Calyrex goes for normal Terra Nasty Plot, you probably just lose the game from there, right? Because you take no damage. Snarls, obviously, the Raging Bolt can't really do anything. And this was an opportunity for Paul to potentially consider clicking Trick Room. But instead, he doesn't get the speed control. And I think now Juan's in a really good spot because you have Life Orb Astral on both of these Pokemon, right? So the question is whether or not it knocks out either. I definitely expect the Calyrex to survive. I would expect both to survive with the Sliver, but we'll see. So it is just going to be that Life Orb Astral. Maybe Bolt faints here. I don't know. Oh, it does faint. Okay. So that's a big KO. And yeah, Juan here, I think, did a really good job of just chipping away and distributing damage. And I think Paul really felt the pressure from Shadow Rider. And part of this is, once again, because of Shadow Rider having Nasty Plot. So this matchup feels very much about Calyrex Shadow Rider, basically, and how you can position it properly, right? Can you get it to a position where it can start snowballing? And now Juan's just in such a commanding position, especially with Scarf Landorus. Like, it feels really bad to bring Scarf Landorus out in the battle when you are like behind in terms of Pokemon count, because you just have to lock and commit to a move, and Paul can't even switch it out right now, and Juan still has Terra available to him, so you pretty easily like protect your Calyrex here and then swap out the Incineroar, for example. Or you could just sack Incin, protect Calyrex, get a free switch in. You could also just attack the Calyrex right now, depending on what the last Pokemon is, because you know Landorus can't protect. It's going to be the Amoonguss here, so you still have to be a little bit careful, I think. I actually decides not to protect it, saying, you know what, I'll just go for the knockout. I'm confident on winning the 2v1 with Incin Amoonguss if I get a Life Orb Astral here, which I think is totally fair. So this should knock out the Landorus. Yep. And then now Incin gets the return knockout, but it's Incin plus Amoonguss. So Calyrex on Juan's end was just incredible in this matchup, right? It was able to just do a ton of damage across the board. Knockoff comes out. KO Shadow Rider. Now you bring out Incin. You can go for Fake Out. And then one cool thing here is Juan can obviously knock off with his Incin as well. So you can just remove the safety goggles from Incin. So Paul knows that, and he's going to forfeit here. So I think the key turns in this game one were kind of the mid turns, where Juan did a good job of just like getting damage onto Ice Rider, getting rid of the Assault Vest on the Raging Bolt, and then pushing the tempo from there. So I think Paul's Pokemon choice was okay. Landorus didn't feel like it really contributed a ton in this matchup, but Paul's bringing it here because he wants something to outspeed Calyrex Shadow Rider. He doesn't want to rely solely on Trick Room. Trick Room didn't go up in that game, right? So I feel like if you think about setting up Trick Room in this one, it might have some value. So I think, yeah, for Paul, he's just like got to do a little bit of a better job playing around the Shadow Rider specifically. And one way to do that is potentially setting up Trick Room, right? Someone said, is this live? This round is over, right? Yeah, we watched game 3 live, but I was not awake for games back and rewatching games 1 and 2. And then I'll go rewatch the first stream game and second stream game. So, we see a mix up here. Juan decides to not lead with the Urshifu this time around. And I like that because I feel like Urshifu wasn't contributing very much in the early game. The scary thing about leading Shadow Rider is this is your key carry. So, when you bring Shadow Rider out this early, it means that you are exposing your best Pokemon in the matchup. And it's a little bit scary, right? Because the question is, can Shadow Rider actually do enough in the early game? With the Water Terra from the Ice Rider, like Astral isn't even doing 50%. So, and Shadow Rider, yeah, feels compelled to Terra here because otherwise you're going to face that knockoff from the opposing end. But yeah, I think the adjustment here is for Paul to slow things down a little bit, right? And I think the Shadow Rider lead here, like it forces the Terror out, but the problem is that Shadow Rider's just not very good into Incineroar, honestly, right? So you get the Fake Out off. Fake Out plus Nasty Plot would be nice here, but Juan decides to go for the Astral immediately. So one thing Juan's going for here is he's saying, hey, if your Calyrex gets greedy and doesn't Terra, I get to punish you really heavily, but this Water Terror feels like really safe to go for. And so, yeah, like you get the damage, but the question is, where do you go from here, right? I think this turn, it's a key debate of, is it Protect with Calyrex or is it just Trick Room? He's not going to Protect. He's going to go for that parting shot. So the thing is, Juan right now could go for a double up onto the Ice Rider, right? Or you could say, you know what? I think that your Ice Rider is going to Protect, so I'm going to go instead for like a Nasty Plot with my Shadow Rider, for example. And then the other question is whether or not a double up even gets the knockout onto Ice Rider, like Life Orb Astral plus a -1 knockoff. It is just going to be Astral here, so let's see. Yeah, I think Calyrex survives the knockoff. This Water Terror is so crucial, and there's so much bulk here. So, survives with 15 HP, which is huge. You get the parting off now onto the Incin. This really impressive bulk from Ice Rider, right? Like, being able to survive 2 Life Orb Astral Barrages and a knockoff. Removing the Clear Amulet is nice, but yeah, Amoonguss is a really great switch in here. Now, this is still a tough position for Paul, right? Because you've taken so much damage, but Pollen Puff on the Amoonguss makes this a lot more doable because with Trick Room up, now you have a really safe side Pollen Puff into, for example, Glacial Lance. But it looks like it's actually going to be the high horsepower play. So the idea behind high horsepower is you just think the Shadow Rider is going to Protect here, right? Glacial would cover for an Amoonguss switch in. But basically, the safe and obvious play for Juan to make right now is Protect Shadow Rider, parting shot into the Ice Rider. Yeah. One of those Astro Swiss without Life Orb. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, so Paul, like, kind of goes for just a safe play here. Because the Calyrex is under so much pressure. It would have been really nice to actually see Calyrex attack this turn, but it's like you risk eating up a Spore, you risk eating up a Glacial Lance, so it's totally understandable why you might not want to go for it. So Instant pivots out now. And you get the free switch into Amoonguss, which is huge, right? You can bring Amoonguss into this slot, pressure Spore onto this slot, and then either go for a Nasty Plot with your Calyrex or switch out. Or just Astral Barrage. Actually, one reason you wouldn't want a Nasty Plot is because you can just get hit by Clear Smog. But yeah, I think like the key thing here is both trainers brought Amoonguss in this matchup, and you have the safety goggles on Incin's end, on Juan's end. So like Incin plus Amoonguss is a really nice way to deal with Paul's Amoonguss, right? Interesting enough, the Calyrex moved before the Amoonguss in Trick Room. Yeah, good call out. So Calyrex switches. That makes sense because you obviously don't want to eat up a Spore in this slot, right? Like Ice Rider is such an important Pokemon. So Incin comes out. And I think like basically in game 1, Juan was able to do a really good job of getting enough damage off where Calyrex could just KO everything. But yeah, this is a nice switch in. I would have maybe expected actually Incin to switch in this slot as well. But I think Juan saying, look, you might expect Incin to switch in. Maybe you don't Spore the slot, and even if you do, like I get to burn a turn of sleep immediately. So you're at risk just in the subsequent turn immediately. So, yeah, the parting shot plus the side Pollen Puff here is really nice. I think, like, the main annoying thing for Juan right now is that there's not much threatening this Amoonguss, right? Parting shot brings the Calyrex down to -1. finally get a little bit of damage off with that Sludge Bomb, but not a ton. These side Pollen Puffs, I think, are, yeah, just really, really strong, and it highlights why. Like, Pollen Puff Amoonguss plus Ice Rider just won the last regionals, right? So, this isn't, like, a new concept by any means, but a lot of people have been dropping Pollen Puff and Amoonguss for Sludge Bomb, Spore, Rage Powder, and Protect. So, you get to bring Ice Rider out now. And now, and goes for Nasty Plot. So, Juan should be in a really good spot here. The downside is eating up the Parting Shot. And you can see, like, everything's healing back a good amount thanks to Pollen Puff, right? But yeah, the downside here is eating up that Parting Shot, and Life Orb is no longer in play. So, you still got to stall out Trick Room. The obvious play then is to just protect your Calyrex here. And then you could pivot Amoonguss out into Incineroar, right? You've gotten rid of a Clear Amulet on the opposing side, and then you have Fake Out plus Astral the next turn. So Amoonguss does pivot out. Yeah, it's kind of like pretty safe place from Juan's end across the board. The idea is to, and obviously like getting this Intimidate onto Ice Rider is quite nice. So Paul's trying to play defensively right now as well. Brings out his Incineroar, which is really healthy now thanks to that Pollen Puff. Okay. Yep, and just protect here from Calyrex and Spore. So the next turn, I think, is... this turn is huge, right? Because it's like, I think now the idea is like Calyrex wants to just snowball this game. You've gotten it set up. It's at +1. Astral will do a lot to Ice Rider plus the Raging Bull. So the key thing this turn is basically, does Amoonguss manage to get a Spore off this turn, right? It's got that Covert Cloak, so if you fake out into it, it'll ignore the flinch. And critically, Amoonguss survives the Astral Barrage here, so another Spore goes off. I think, like, this turn, Juan really needed to knock out the Amoonguss, and Amoonguss not fainting here means that, now Paul kind of gets back into this game. So this was a really big turn. Did Juan have Expanding or Psyshock? He did have Psyshock on Calyrex here, so... I think that was a miss, honestly, to not go for Psyshock in that position. Go for Astral instead. Because Psyshock would cover for switch-in damage. It's like damage into anything that could switch in as well. So yeah, this was a really big turn. Amoonguss being able to and get the Spore off in response. I think Fake Out plus Psyshock here is relatively safe. I think Juan was probably expecting Amoonguss to protect, and so he was like, oh, like, I want to get damage off onto the Incin. But allowing the Amoonguss to put your Calyrex back to sleep is really, really bad. So, I think if you Psyshock there, you get the knockout. Calyrex gets the +2. It just gets... but this is probably the game-defining turn in my eyes. Being able to put Calyrex back to sleep. Yeah, I think Juan there, maybe expecting to get the knockout. Like, you don't want to double up onto Amoonguss in case Amoonguss protects, but with Terra already committed on the Ice Rider, like, it's, yeah, pretty safe to fake out Psyshock, I think. Force the Amoonguss to protect. I think Juan was probably worried that, like, oh, the obvious play for you is to protect your Amoonguss, then you switch out the Amoonguss the next turn, and then I can Parting Shot with the Incineroar once again. But instead, Calyrex now just ends up falling asleep, which is really tough. Because Juan's damage in this game basically almost entirely comes from the Calyrex. I think this turn also could have been an attack into the Amoonguss slot. But instead, it's Parting Shot into the Amoonguss. So Paul's playing really aggressively with Amoonguss. He's down a game in this set already, but I think it makes sense, right? Because you need to make some big calls with Amoonguss, I think, in this matchup, given that Paul took a lot of damage in the early game. But, yeah, like, the Parting Shot here means Amoonguss just gets to stick around for even longer. And this is such a big deal, right? Because now you bring Calyrex back down to neutral. You get your Calyrex back out. The Amoonguss still hangs on, which is a really big deal. This Amoonguss is obviously scary with Spore, but crucially, Paul gets another Pollen Puff off. Like, Pollen Puff feels like MVP move in this set, honestly. You just heal all the way back up. And then Glacial comes out. And I think, like, Juan basically spent so many resources in the early game to get Calyrex really low, but then all of that damage now has been negated thanks to Pollen Puff, right? And so now the Calyrex is just in such a good spot. And this is one of the downside of Shadow Rider teams often, right? With these setup teams, it's like so much of your offense is just coming from one Pokemon. This is an awesome play, the self-clear Smog to get rid of the attack drop from Incineroar, doing more damage with Glacial Lands. I love that play. It's funny because both Pokemon actually end up surviving here with like literally 1 HP. Which is a little bit scary, but I think the reality now is like you're so low with Calyrex Shadow Rider that you're one Thunderclap away from potentially getting knocked out. Yeah. Here, like, if you're Huang, you could go for, like, just a Hail Mary, which is fake out into Ice Rider. Just hope to wake up with Shadow Rider, get a nasty plot off. But the problem is, like, Shadow Rider is just one attack away from getting KO'd at this point, right? So, Ice Rider is going to protect. Yep. You still need to wake up with the Shadow Rider as well. And it doesn't wake up. The self-clear Smog play was awesome. Really clever. Not much downside. But yeah, I think like in this game, Paul was able to just like weather the early storm of Shadow Rider. And that's like, I think the downside of leading Shadow Rider, which is like you're not actually getting knockouts with it. And you're risking, and we already saw game 3, obviously. And that's kind of what happened in game 3, where Juan just played really aggressive with Shadow Rider and then just like wasn't able to get very much off with it. So I kind of like what Juan did in game 1, which was use your other non-Shadow Rider pieces to disrupt Paul and then get to a point where Shadow Rider can just sweep. So Shadow Rider finally manages to wake up. Does get the off here. But yeah, the problem is a non-Life Orb boosted Astral Barrage, just not that scary. I do think, like, yeah, Raging Bolt coming out here, sorry, Urshifu coming out here is nice in terms of threatening with Surging Strikes, but now you just get to switch in Raging Bolt if you're Paul again. So yeah, and Bolt just comes in now. Yeah, there's just too much HP, basically, for Paul to deal with, which is what makes this really, really hard. Old School GM says, I think Paul was the better Instant Amoonguss player this game. Yeah, I think I totally agree. Like, the Amoonguss usage from Paul's end in this game was incredible, and I think Juan let Amoonguss stick around for far too long. Which was ultimately his downside. The key turn, once again, was the turn that just was, like, could have eaten up a Psyshock. Juan tries to predict an obvious protect and just ends up, getting put to sleep again. Because I think it's like, if Calyrex Psyshocks Amoonguss here, completely different game, right? You get to +2, Ice Rider goes up, Shadow Instant doesn't do anything that turn either. Then it's an Ice Rider plus a Raging Bolt in the back here. And then you, like, the Calyrex here with that normal terror isn't even threatened by a knockout, and you have faster Pokemon. So I do think, yeah, if it was Psyshock that turn instead of Astral Barrage, this game probably looks pretty differently. What do I think is the most viable restricted outside of the Calis? Miraidon, One Worlds. I mean, I think Miraidon, Koraidon, Kyogre, Terapagos, Zamazenta, Groudon are all in good places. Like, all of them could win this tournament, realistically. Groudon maybe a little bit less, but all the others I could see winning. Draco does miss on the Amoonguss here, but you just get a Glacial now. And that was a nice play, going for the Draco. Knowing that, like, Calyrex without Life Orb, without Nasty Plot just isn't that scary. Spore comes out. Yeah, the problem here is it's like you've been able to do all this, but having Snarl in this Raging Bolt is actually a huge game changer. I think without Snarl, they're like Huang definitely pull off the comeback in this matchup, because then you just go for a Rage Powder, Nasty Plot, and then like Astral. But Snarl here just basically like secures the victory. What you have to do if you're Juan then is either hope for a Snarl miss or protect Spore into Raging Bolt. And then, but then the thing is, Paul is just going to cover for it by bringing out Instinct, because then you can just fake out this anyway. So there's really not much Juan can do in this position. Any schedule for the next episode of the podcast? Yeah, Marcus and I actually recorded one before San Antonio, which was a while ago. I meant to get that uploaded. Maybe, hopefully, like over the weekend, and then we'll do another one after EUIC. But It's definitely, yeah, I miss doing it. We've been, both of us have been a little bit busy with new jobs and stuff. Oh, he did miss the snarl. But yeah, you still have Fake Out plus Draco. What do you do here if you're Juan? Like, I mean, you need to go for protect, like double protect, I think. Like, I think it's still lost essentially because Instant has just healed up so much. Like, if Instant was low enough to actually faint from the Astro Barrage, then I think Juan could pull off a comeback. But yeah, even with that miss, it's not enough. So yeah, you go for the protect here. Also, guys, if the next round is up, can you let me know? Because right now we're just rewatching a previous game, but it would be awesome to do round 4 and 5 live with you all. Yeah, so I think you have to double protect here because otherwise you just lose either of your Pokemon. But the problem here is, like, yeah, Instant still has knockoff. So it's like you kind of feel forced to Rage Powder here to get around Thunderclap. And I think the problem is Shadow Rider just took way too much damage in this game. Yeah, Astro just doesn't do enough. You need to get more damage off, basically. Oh, round 4 pairings are up. Okay, so the next game should be up pretty shortly after. No stream so far. Okay, thank you. If round 4 pairings are up, then round 4 should be starting pretty soon. So maybe we'll just watch that first, and then I'll maybe go, depending on how fast it ends, go through games 1 and 2. I can only co-stream for another like hour and a half-ish or so. But maybe after I work, I'll do the rest of the games, especially because obviously a lot of my viewers are North American based. But yeah, I think this game, like, you can really just point to this one key turn against the Amoonguss, if I can find it, where there was no Psyshock and Amoonguss survives the +1 Astro Barrage. I wonder if, like, Juan, like, if I were in his shoes, I would have maybe forgotten about Life Orb being removed, and so I was like, oh, like, Astro here should just KO, but he was parting shotted and Life Orb was removed, so despite getting a nice nasty plot off, like, the difference between, like, +2 Life Orb Astro versus +1 Life Orb Astro versus +1 no Life Orb Astral just means Amoonguss can take that so well. But yeah, I just think Psyshock would have been in a pretty good... Psyshock would have been really nice there, since it also covers for Assault Vest, Raging Bull, and this has already Terra'd. Okay, reading chat. Sorry if you've been asked this. Is there a PGL video coming soon? Week 1 will come... Yeah, week 1 will be up soon. I don't think I'll do a draft breakdown. Yeah, but week 1 against Joey is coming in. It was really, really fun. Why are players from other regions allowed at these championships? The tournaments are open to anyone. It's not region exclusive. So you don't need to qualify to attend. The only tournament in Pokemon you need to qualify for to attend is the World Championships. But anyone can attend the International Championships. And the idea is, you know, it's cool to see top players from all around the world travel to compete in these events. Back in the day, before 2017, it was nationals in different regions, and even then you could still like travel to go to nationals in other countries. But yeah, in 2017 they changed to internationals with the idea of trying to making it more international. Okay, so let's see where we are with round 4 standings, but there's so many people who are 3-0 right now, so this just yeah, there's probably what, like a couple hundred that are 3-0. Why can I never find a good website to track the competitors and results? Use this website, Arcanine Pairings. I'll edit the description to include it. Yes, except Asia. Asia is different because it's run by the Pokemon Company rather than the Pokemon Company International. What time is it in America? It is 6:58 a.m. right now. It's early. Okay, Arcanine's in the pairings. Okay, let's see what the fun 3-0 matchups are. Wolves 3-0. He's brought Parrish into this event. Pokedata is also good. Yep, that's true. Joji Kaeda is 3-0. Curious what he brought to this event. Colin Hire at 3-0. Joe at 3-0. A lot of big name American players at 3-0. Oh, this is a fun one. Fies versus Kyle Livinghouse. Michael Kelch 3-0. Oh, I want to know what he brought to the event. He was saying he was going to bring Terapagos into the tournament. I'm curious if he actually ended up bringing it. Thank you, Bradley. Appreciate you for tuning in. Central Time coach stream before work is diabolical. I know. What time is it? 7? Oh, wow. Paul playing Roberto Parenti right after. Tim Edwards, who finished second at this event last year at 3-0. Jejong at 3-0. Oh, Yosuke, who I think was top 16 at Worlds in 23. Paired down against Riley. A lot of big name players at 2-1. Renzo, Billa. MDB did bring Zamazenta. Oh my gosh. He trolled everyone. Oh, Tang's at 3-0? I saw Justin Tang tweet, like, I haven't slept in the last 24 hours, and that was at like 3 a.m. London time, so I'm glad he got some sleep in. There's almost 400 people at 3-0. Oh my gosh, this tournament is so big. Wow, this is an old school matchup. Luka versus Trista. What else do we got? Oh, Zoe is playing. That's cool. Zoe won OCIC in 2017. Flavio Del Pidio, who won this event in 2019, 2-1. This is ex-junior division world champion. Jungsi, who's been super good this season, 2-1. Luka Pazza, 2-1. Ashton at 2-1. Shohei Kimura at 2-1. Oh, Japanese matchup in London here, which is cool. Why do I was wondering, like, there were definitely more 3-0. It's just down here. Like, how's Alex Gomez doing? Gomez. Wow, he's 1-2. Yeah. He's been on an absolute tear in the last few seasons. Eric Rios? Wow. Pokemon is so hard, guys. Aaron Trailers 2-1. How's Brendan doing? 2-1. Marcus 2-1. Yuki 2-1. The Spanish legends, definitely tough start to the event, but it's a long tournament, right? Like, if you just win the next 5, you make it a day 2. But they've got to go undefeated now. What about Luka Cheribelli? 3-0. I'm really excited to see Luka play again, honestly. I mean, like, he obviously won Worlds, and, like, I feel like he's using the same team, and he was on stream, so we'll be able to watch one of his games earlier, which is awesome. But let's see when the next match starts. There's still... Rohan says, I want to see Justin Tang's team play on stream because I assume people may have prepared for that specific team in advance from the regional win. Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, like, having tried that team on Road to Ranked, like, I think it's actually a really hard team to use. And I do think, like, the spreads were a big part of it winning. And, like, knowing, for example, Ogerpon's max HP, max defense, and knowing it's slow, knowing that, like, Landorus and Urshifu are slower than normal, can make it harder. Is anyone else from your building group playing Parish? No, I think it's just Wolf. Wolf was thinking about Koraidon right after Toronto and spent a while working on the team, and everyone else is on different stuff. I think actually, yeah, out of like the primary friend group and people that I work with, they're mainly all on different teams, which is kind of cool. Everyone's just like, you know, it's kind of like the approach that we had for Worlds. Everyone's like, I'm just going to kind of find something that I think works for me and stick towards it. Am I saving my annual leave to bring Mono Bug to Worlds? I haven't played an event this season other than Toronto. I'm actually going to be playing in Vancouver Regionals in a few weeks, though, which I'm really excited for, just because I have history there. And then I'll play NAIC as well. Tyler VGC says, shout out for being the only VGC player I keep up with. Thank you, man. Also, let's vote now. Hurry up. Tomorrow, album of the decade. Dude, I love the album. It is so good. My link is in the description. Why didn't I go for the tournament? A couple reasons. I just started a new job, and I didn't want to take time off right away. And also just been traveling a bunch and didn't want to be gone for another weekend. And I haven't been really playing Break G very much. Timeless is goated. You know what's crazy? Timeless is actually one of my least favorite songs from the album. I was really worried about the album because I didn't love the singles. Like, I think Sao Paulo is way better in the context of the album. Timeless, I don't know. For some reason, it's just like, it doesn't hit as hard for me. And then Dancing in the Flames was good, but then it ended up getting removed from the album as well. Oh, Diego has Alchemy with Calyrex Ice Rider? That's awesome. Oh, this is an awesome matchup. Wow. Regional champion versus Victor. He's president of the Pokemon company. I wish. No, I work as a consultant. This is gonna be such a the games have been so high quality in terms of matchups. We already had Marco on stream. We'll maybe watch that game later. We had Luka Cherubelli on stream as well versus Gabriel Agatti, and then now, I mean, these are all like, you know, matchups you could see at the World Championship. Super, super cool. Well, I'm excited for this one. Victor is easily been, I would say, you know, like top 5 player in the world this entire season. Obviously getting second at LAIC. He's also just been on an incredible run the last few seasons. Ooh, favorite track from Hurry Up Tomorrow? Baptized in Fear and Open Hearts, probably. Those have definitely been the two I've listened to the most, but I don't know. Every song is so good. I can't remember the last time I enjoyed like a 20+ track album so long. If you want the standings, you can check the description for the Arcanine pairings link. Niagara Falls is so good. I work as a consultant for Pokemon? No, just a consultant. That'd be cool. Can I make a Road to Rank video on Mewtwo and Rayquaza? I did see a Rayquaza team that I wanted to feature. I also haven't made Road to Ranked, obviously, in a while. Like, I need to get back on the upload grind. But yeah, I started a new job and also been traveling. Oh, whoa! Lee cut his hair! Looks great! Thanks to you all for tuning in. For all of you who are watching, like, where are you guys from? Because I am from the US, and it is only 7 a.m. right now, which is obviously quite early. West Coast 5 a.m. Eastern US. Australia, Spain, Texas, Finland. Do you know why they can't show matches in between the stream matches? Maybe stuff from side streams? I think it's mainly just like a tech thing, right? Like, it takes a good bit in order to actually get these games broadcasted, and there's just a lot more that goes on behind the scenes. I wish we could have a secondary game as well. It would be great. India, Munich. Is Lee still playing VGC? I don't think he really plays anymore, but Lee was really, really good in 2012 or 13 and 14. He got top 8 at Worlds in 2014. Okay, we got Zamazenta. Ooh, Reggie Alecki. Victor is on the team that... We actually... Is it the exact same 6? We featured this team on Road to Ranked. It got top 8 at Worlds. Or at least a very similar team we featured. Yeah, it got top 8 at Worlds. Built by Navdeep Joshi. And Reggie Alecki plus Landorus is really cool because you could just like Electro Web into Earth Power into everything. It's the exact same 6. Yeah. Yeah, if you want to see me use this team, I made a video on it for Road to Ranked. Okay, so I think this is really interesting because I actually think Alecki plus Landorus goes really, really hard here. And I get the Flutter should be booster energy with Icy Wind though. And this is kind of the newer take on Zamazentas. Like people have been using Chi-Yu a good bit on him. And over like Entei, you know, got top 4 at the World Championships. Piloted by Michael Kelsch. But Chi-Yu has been really common. And Flutter Chi-Yu has just been a really good duel for the longest time. Would I ever play Diego's Worlds team for Road to Ranked? If he recreated it, I'd be happy to. Yeah, that's a great point. Chien-Pao usage has definitely skyrocketed a little bit. Yeah, I feel like on a lot of different teams. Like I've seen it on Miraidon teams recently. I think it's just a consistent user. Like it's one of the best Focus Sash users in the game. It's so fast. You threaten with a lot of damage. You force Terras out really frequently with it. Like you force Miraidon to Terra. One interesting adaptation, by the way, in this tournament is people are using really bulky Miraidon and dropping a ton of speed investment. I think like Luka Cherubelli had like near max HP Miraidon. I think Chien-Pao's good into Landorus, but it's also good into the Calorexes, for example. And like you obviously drop your opponent's defense with it as well. So if you're pairing it with physical Pokemon, like Zama loves being with Chien-Pao because of body press. Chien-Pao's still only used on Zamazenta teams. I think it's actually picked up on Miraidon teams in this event specifically. Like not in terms of super high usage, but like we saw Gabriel Agatti have it on his Miraidon team on stream. So yeah, this team that Victor is using got top 8 at Worlds, and basically like you have Trick Room, but you also have speed control from Reggie Alecki, so you can like Alecki plus Ursh, Alecki plus Landorus is really scary because you can just drop your opponent's speed, break Focus Sash, break through Sturdies, and then get knockouts with Landorus or Urshifu. Yeah, Chien-Pao has been used with Kyogre as well. That's a great point. And people have been using Ice Spinner as well to get rid of terrain from things like Miraidon and Rillaboom as well. So, awesome matchup here. Yep, the Flutter Mane here. This is one thing people have been doing, dropping Protect for Taunt. So, speed booster energy. It does make Flutter a lot more vulnerable, right? Like, knowing it can't Protect means that, like, Flutter is one of those Pokemon where if you get the good lead matchup, but it can also feel really useless and can go down really quickly. One other thing to call out here is Behemoth Bash being used on Zamazenta. That's a new meta adaptation. Also, I should full screen. But basically, people have been using Behemoth Bash to cover for Fairy Terra on things like Calyrex Ice Rider, because Heavy Slam just doesn't do very much damage because of the weights. So Behemoth Bash has been something that Zamas have been using more frequently to deal with Fairy Terra, specifically from heavier restricted Pokemon. Otherwise, I think the Rock Ogre Pawn here is something that stands out to me as well. I think this team did fairly well. It was like a Japanese player had been using it recently. Is EUIC earlier this year, or is it always in February? No, it's earlier. That's a great point. Normally, EUIC is around April, March or April, I think. Normally, like mid to late April, actually, I thought. So, yeah, I think, like, in this matchup, Landorus is really, really scary. But Landorus obviously is threatened by Chien-Pao and threatened by Flutter Mane, right? Like, you could lead Alecki plus Landorus, but then a Flutter Mane Chien-Pao lead would be a really strong response. So one of the things I'm curious about is the Landorus. I mean, I think Ice Rider is like really, really scary here in the matchup because, sorry, it's like scary to bring because you're going up against Chi, you're going up against Ogerpon, Shenpao, and Zamazenta. So it feels bad that your restricted Pokemon actually doesn't feel that strong here. But I think one of the key strengths of Navjeet's team and the team that Victor is using is let your non-restricted Pokemon feel like restricted often based on how much damage they do. But Victor is going to lead with the Ice Rider immediately, which is interesting. Okay. So with this, you could go Follow Me plus Trick Room. You could also just go Follow Me Glacial, but Flutter normally is going to be super, super bulky here. And so you should survive a Glacial would be my guess. Curious on the EV spread. Spiky Protect maybe? Ooh, okay. Considering just Spiky, no Terra Glacial lands. I like that because I think like the play that you often expect from the opposing side is just Icy Wind. You don't even really need to Icy Wind. You could just attack. You do risk eating up like Shadow Ball plus Behemoth Bash here though into like Ice Rider. So let's see. Yeah, it is Shadow Ball here. I mean, Shadow plus Bash is honestly decently safe here. So this is kind of risky. Or Body Press, yeah. Wow, that was really risky. No Terra either. Oh, wow. The thing, though, is I actually don't think Ice Rider is that important of a Pokemon in this matchup, but the problem is now Landorus just gets to come out and you get a free Icy Wind to drop its speed, which oh my god. I mean, if you're going for a Spiky Shield on double Spiky Shield on turn 2 of the game, you're already in a really bad spot. So, yeah, I think, like, Victor just taking a pretty big risk. I think this matchup kind of sucks for him, honestly, though. Like, Zama already isn't a good Pokemon to go up against for Ice Rider, and then like the Flutter main here just invalidates the Aleki Lando combo a little bit more. Yeah, EUIC has moved up because there used to be a 4th internationals in the Oceania International Championships, but that's no longer in the circle. It's like more evenly spaced. Anyway, yeah, Dragon Terra here, really safe. Like, you just don't want to faint to a Life Orb Earth Power. And it's going to be a Poison Terra here. I think it's like the ideal output in this matchup would be for Victor to knock out Flutter Mane. And yeah, like, you never want to go for a double protect this early on in a battle. But it makes sense because I think you're expecting the opposing side to just knock out your Ogerpon with something like an Icy Wind plus a Body Press or Heavy Slam. Or sorry, Behemoth Bash. And so the idea here is, hey, if I at least get the double, then I can bring some momentum back into my favor. But quite honestly, with the Dragon Terra coming out from the opposing side, like, I feel like this game was just over after turn 1. Sensor's not even going to connect here, but it doesn't really make much of a difference. And, like, this is the thing with Flutter Mane, right? Like, it is able to just be so disruptive, and it's normally going to be bulky enough for one big physical attack as well. Yeah, this seems really tough. Stream lagging for anyone else every 10 to 15 seconds. If that's happening, try refreshing. I heard that the official stream is also lagging a little bit. But, yeah, YouTube. Anyway, I mean, this game was just completely over on turn 1. Like, it was a huge risk to take. And I think if you're Victor, like, what you could do is follow me Trick Room and then use Landorus under Trick Room. Because Ice Rider plus Landorus under Trick Room feels a little bit stronger. Icy Wind comes out. Yeah, I'm not dropping any frames. So it's my cam as well. Interesting. Maybe it's my internet. There's nothing I can do about that, unfortunately. I'm at the mercy of my internet. So we'll see if anything changes. But yeah, the stream itself, like the output itself isn't lagging. So I'm guessing it's an internet issue. But try refreshing if it's lagging. And see if that helps. Sound is good, but picture is freezing every 10 seconds. Did this just start? Because if so, then I think it's just an internet problem, which unfortunately I can't do anything about. Which sucks. Anyway, this game was over from turn 1. I think Victor needs to set up Trick Room. I think you go Ogerpon, Ice Rider, Trick Room and bring out Landorus is what I would do differently. But this was just, yeah, complete dominance from the opposing end. Yeah, I think if it's been happening for a while, maybe it's just an internet issue, which kind of sucks. So I apologize. Not much we can do about it. I think there's probably a Moongus from the opposing side in the back, though, which is why Victor doesn't want to set up that Trick Room. And you should be bringing a Moongus in the back, I think. I think Flutter, Zama, Moongus as a trio feels really solid here. Yeah, you guys could always have the official stream on if my voice still sounds okay. Just like watch the official stream, but then have my audio in the background. I think that's one workaround. Bash is more consistent than Heavy Slam. It is right now because Fairy Terra on Restricteds like Ice Rider is being used more, as well as Miraidon. And Groudon, potentially. So yeah, like, this was just absolute dominance from Zamazenta. Zama two-shots everything in this matchup, right? So you need to go... I think you need to set up Trick Room here, personally. So the adjustment I would make is... But the problem is, even if you set up Trick Room, where do you go from there? It's like you need to prevent Amoonguss from coming in safely. I guess it's still so scary, because then you can just wide guard and then bring in Amoonguss. See ya, Tyler. Thanks for tuning in, man. What is the main Terapagos archetype now? It's still set up Terapagos with, like, Fake Out from Incineroar, normally Urshifu, Amoonguss. But Marco is running Terapagos with Screamtail and Heatran. So yeah, the question is, like, can you one-shot that Flutter Mane in the beginning of this game, right? You could go Alecki Landorus here as well and pressure Electro Web plus Earth Power. So I think if I'm Victor, the adjustments I would go for are Alecki Landorus or Ice Rider, Ogerpon again, and set up Trick Room instead. Okay, let's see. Flutter Zama, Ursh Calyrex. Okay, not the lead I was expecting. I think I can see the vision, though. With this, you pressure Trick Room and Surging onto Flutter, and Urshifu is, like, the only thing Victor has that can one-shot the Flutter Mane. Now, it is Grass Terra Flutter Mane on the opposing side. The question is, do you go Water Terra Surging? Do you just Surging? Do you Protect? He has no bulk. He's going Protect. Okay, Protect Terra Trick Room here, I think, is the play. Whoa. Ooh. Protect. He's okay. Taking the huge risk of attacking turn 1 again. I like the idea, though, because now Urshifu at least applies more pressure. So the idea is, like, you hope to see the Urshifu getting targeted, whereas in the previous game, Ogerpon's not as scary into this duo. Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah, I like the taunt here. Like, basically... recognizing, hey, Trick Room would be really scary. It didn't get set up in the last game. Oh my gosh. And the double up again. Great call. Glacial comes out, but it's not going to do enough. However, I think it'll put Flutter in Aqua Jet range. Yeah. Okay, so this works out decently well. Water Terra. Ooh. Close combat. So... the risk of close combating here is Flutter. Like, I don't actually see too much reason for it to switch, right? So you could just eat up a Moonblast here. This is risky. Like, the double up onto Zama, you could just eat up a Moonblast here. No Terra coming out from Victor's end either. Very risky. Oh, this is scary. Let's see. Yeah, no Trick Room being set up, I think, is tough. Yeah, I mean, Moonblast just comes out. That's a KO. Yeah, I think it's one of those positions where, like, this Flutter has no reason to switch, quite frankly. And I think it's just such a big risk to take. But Victor might be like, you know what, this is such a hard matchup anyway. I feel the need to take risks. But, like, now you let the Flutter hang around, and now it just gets Icy Wind. Oh, yeah. This feels over, honestly. I think the expectation there is like, oh, Flutter switching into Mungus feels really, really safe, but... And I guess the argument to make for switching out Flutter is that even with that booster energy, you still get to Icy win everything, but now this game feels over to me. Couldn't he have swapped in Amoonguss as a threat? Yeah, but it's like, okay, if Amoonguss switches in, like, at least it means that, like, that slot isn't doing anything for the turn, right? I don't know. I get why Victor... He didn't jet the Flutter because I think he was just expecting it to switch out into Amoonguss. And it's one of those examples where it's like, look, the matchup is already pretty bad, and so Victor might just feel like he needs to take some pretty big risks in order to win. Like, when you're leading Urshifu Calyrex, I don't know. I think I would have liked to see Ogre Ice Rider, but I think Victor was probably just scared of Amoonguss from the opposing side under Trick Room. But now you get to just spam Icy Wind plus damage from Zama. Yeah. The Taunt was really nice on turn 1 just to prevent a potential Trick Room. You didn't even go for a Trick Room, but yeah, potentially stopping it was nice. Sandseer comes out. It does connect, but now you just get a free switch in. Yeah, Aqua plus Glacial would cover for Amoonguss, that's right. But the problem there is... like, you don't do damage to Zama. But yeah, I don't know. I think, like, maybe, like, Urshifu tearing there at least covers for Flutter staying in. Victor also probably feels forced to conserve this Terra, but now you just got Rock Ogre Pawn out on the opposing side. There's just way too much damage. Everything's getting outsped. Ice Rider is just doing nothing. And that's what I was saying in this matchup, right? Like, I don't think Ice Rider is that good in this. It's not bad in a Flutter Ogre, but the problem is the bulky Flutter plus the sturdy on Ogre means both will survive. So, yeah. This just felt pretty over. From, honestly, even the leads, it was tough. I mean, like, turn 1, Ice Rider could have protected, but both games, Victor just leaves Ice Rider exposed. I actually like him taking that risk, quite frankly, because, like, Ice Rider's not doing that much in this matchup anyway. And now I like this Terror a lot as well. But yeah, like, both games, the Ice Rider just takes so much damage and doesn't get to accomplish very much, right? Because in this game, it actually could have been something like Water Terra surging immediately onto Fluttermane on turn 1. But Zama, yeah, I mean, it would just be a double knockout here. Lando. Ogre comes back out. But now you're just getting outsped. Zama's, like, naturally so good in this matchup because it's faster than Victor's team, even without Icy Wind speed control, and Aleki, like, doesn't feel as bringable into this matchup because Flutter just has that, like, Icy Wind. So even if you Electro Web, well, Flutter will just Icy Wind you back, and then Zama suddenly outspeeds everything anyway. So it was a tough matchup, I think, to begin with, and I also think, like, Davide just played super well. Like, really nice plays into the Ice Rider. Wide guard here. Yeah, pretty safe. And just Ivy Cudgel. Yeah, it just gets the KO. Jeez. Could have been Zama Protect Power Whip, maybe? Yeah, the game's over. I really like Rock Ogerpon being used on Zama teams. I think, like, it offers you a new dimension of offense, which is really nice. But that was clinical. Just really, really good play. I do think this matchup was really, really bad for Victor to begin with. And so that's why he was, like, taking some pretty big risks. Because I think the reality is, like, playing safe here, probably you feel like you don't get a big enough advantage. Like, the problem is Ice is your restricted Pokemon, but it does so little into so much of this team. But yeah, this is an example of, like, matchup difference as well as your opponent, like, playing well, right? And I think Victor's been a little bit unfortunate with matchup diffs a couple times on stream between this and, like, LAIC finals, where, in my opinion, in both of those matchups, it was, like, very heavily in his opponent's favor. Someone said, it's so ironic that you just said that Victor is one of the best players right now. I mean, him losing like this doesn't mean he's not, right? Like, Pokemon is a game where if you have a really bad matchup, you will lose if your opponent plays it correctly. Your opponent still has to play it correctly, right? So to David's credit, he did everything right in this matchup as well. But it's like even the best players in the world can get completely blown out in Pokemon. That's what makes this game so hard, right? Like, you don't see that very frequently in other games. Like chess, for example. But yeah, Zama was just, it was so good here with Flutter support. And I bet Amoonguss was the last one here. Cornerstone's just being used everywhere for a couple reasons. First of all, like, rock plus grass coverage is awesome. If you actually look at like the team that Justin Tang and Shiliang Tang used to win San Antonio regionals, like it's actually super rock Ogerpon weak, right? Like Fire Ogerpon, like so many fire types are being used. Fire Ogerpon, Chiyu, Incineroar, for example. And Sturdy is, I mean, the main thing, right? Like, but it's like a combination of Sturdy plus having Follow Me plus having incredible offense and a really good speed stat. And in a format where like there are so many big attacks, having something that can tank a restricted attack and then retaliate back with the knockout is huge. But the redirection is awesome from it as well. What team is Wolfie playing? He is using Koraidon. That's correct, yes. What do I think Terapagos needs to win a major? Better move pool, typing your stats? I think it's good enough to win a major as is. I don't think it needs any additional buffs, honestly. But it's just harder to use because of the lack of a defensive like typing Terra, basically. All right, well, this means that we can watch some of the previous games. What time is it right now? 7:30. So hopefully I can watch the last two games and then hopefully get one more round of the stream. But let's go to round one of this tournament. Okay, so we got Robbie here versus Marco Silva. Shadow Rider seems like a lot of players have actually been bringing into this tournament, which I find interesting. Okay, so let's see. So, first of all, like just on paper, well, let's look at the team sheets. Encore, Light Screen, Whimsicott, Shadow Rider, Incin, Ursh, Indeedee, Ogerpon. So immediately, like, just I think if you're playing against Terapagos, like, you need to index on Stellar Ursh. I think, like, I'm bringing Encore, Light Screen, Whimsicott as well. Whimsicott, Ursh. Calyrex can still Nasty Plot and then Expanding Force. So, like, these three, I feel like I'm immediately thinking I really want to bring, and then one of the remaining three. And then on Marco's end, this is a new take on Terapagos specifically because of Screamtail and Heatran, right? These are not common Pokemon that you see in the format very frequently, so this is really cool. And then Rock Ogerpon, we were just talking about, also being used on Terapagos, which you don't see as much. Normally, you'll see things like Urshifu, for example, Raging Bull, Amoonguss. So this is actually a pretty new kind of trio to kind of round things out here. But Encore Disable Screamtail is really nice because a lot of times the ways people will shut down Terapagos, I think Screamtail actually can handle really nicely with Encore plus Disable. It's also running that Play Rough, so it can actually do some damage, and this is valuable into like Urshifu and Koraidon and the fighting types as well. And then the Heatran here is really interesting. You've got Heavy Slam, Earth Power, Magma Storm, and Protect. Magma Storm being a really, really cool move. So curious if Marco ends up bringing it out into this matchup. Grass Terra being used on Rillaboom here for offense rather than defense. Rocky Helmet, Ghost Terra, Incin with Will-O-Wisp. This being one of your primary Zamazenta answers. Ogerpon for redirection as well. So I think if you're Marco, like, you probably want to make sure that you can eliminate Whimsicott. Heatran I actually think would be valuable for that. I think Screamtail is a cool bring. You have double Fake Out support. You just have to be a little bit careful because if you like Calm Mind and Whimsicott comes in and then Encores you, that could be annoying. But Heatran I actually think has value in this matchup. Urshifu obviously is going to be the main thing you're going to want to worry about though. So I don't know. If I were him, I would think like Terapagos, Heatran, Screamtail, and then one of Rilla or Ogerpon. But Incin also makes sense because you can just Ghost Terra and pressure with Will-O-Wisp, which is quite nice. Instant Calyrex versus Instant Terapagos. Okay. And this is Calm Mind, but it is it's Psyshock on the Calyrex, right? So you can ignore the... Oh, no, it's Expanding Force. Never mind. Not having Psyshock actually makes it tougher. So let's see. A little bit. Let's go at 1.5. Okay. So you see Instant plus Ursh in the back. This is why I'm saying, like, you definitely want Whimsicott in this matchup, and you definitely want Ursh and Calyrex as well. So I think this all makes sense. The scary thing here is, like, the Instant could just Terra immediately, right? Yeah, Expanding Force has definitely been high up. Seems like a lot of people have been using it recently. I like this, by the way. Terapagos not going for a Protect, just saying, you know what? I don't care if you fake out into me. And this Calm Mind is just huge, right? Like, I think getting that special defense boost is really, really important because, like, the only way Calyrex can hit Terapagos is with Expanding Force. It's not even a Psyshock. The risk of Calm Minding there is if Robbie were to have switched in Whimsicott, right? Protect, Parting Shot, or Hard Switch, go into Whimsicott, and then you pressure with Encore the next turn. So Calyrex protects. Oh, a second Calm Mind, okay. It is part to have to deal with the Whimsicott switch in, right? Which is a little bit scary. Oh, he's going into Ursh instead. Okay. I think the idea behind Ursh is, hey, I can just go for Psyshock plus Stellar Close Combat. Or sorry, Expanding Force plus Stellar Close Combat. But now you do eat up the Parting Shot. So you're at -1 attack, right? And Marco gets a free switch in. Out here. I think here the Ursh could have been a Whimsicott. No Whimsicott makes this a lot tougher, especially with Parting Shot going off into the Urshifu slot. Like, Robbie was, like, basically like, look, I think I have an opportunity to just knock out the Terapagos, but with him eating the Parting Shot out and with Rillaboom coming out with fake out pressure, like, suddenly that just doesn't work anymore. So I think I would have liked to see Whimsicott hit the field a little bit earlier in this game. Instant comes out. Terapagos goes for the Protect. Pretty safe. This was a nice call by Marco, right? Like, obviously, you risk close combat going into that slot. Oh my gosh. It does so much damage, but doesn't do enough. And then U-turn here to pivot out for more fake out cycling. I mean, this actually ends up not being a bad turn for Robbie, though, because you get a ton of damage off. And now you have fake out pressure this next turn. But now Instant just gets to come back out. Who's faster? Calyrex, Instant, okay. So now you have fake out. You could go... But this is the problem, right? Like, because this Terapagos has gotten 2 Calm Minds off, like, Shadow Rider, even at +2, isn't that scary right now? Like, yeah, you can double up into it, but it's not even going to come close to knocking out. Let's see. It's good damage, but now you just, yeah, eat up a Parting Shot. Patrick makes a good point. Marco didn't click fake out. You swear the psychological meta around fake out is off right now. Too much respect for fake out and people with it click other moves. Yeah. I think that's one of the most fascinating things that have fake out Pokemon, like when they go for it. It is actually Ogerpon, so no Screamtail or Heatran bring for Marco here. I think the Ogerpon is the solution to Whimsicott with Encore, by the way, because you can just redirect. I mean, Marco hasn't even attacked with the Terapagos yet, but it's kind of a ticking time bomb right now. It's gotten the decent setup going on. And the question is how do you actually deal with Terapagos? I think the problem is you have redirection and double fake out support from the opposing end. So I think like Whimsicott needed to hit this field a lot sooner in this matchup, in my opinion. Yeah, had Light Screen plus Encore pressure. Astro just comes out. Yeah, like the sturdy here is just so big as well. Someone's, asking earlier, why is Ogre Pawn being used so frequently? Well, being able to tank an attack like that, do so much to Ensign. Now Terra Starstorm just knocks out Ensign. Let's see how much it does to Shadow Rider. Almost KOs, wow. Yeah, and like this is what's so tough, right? I mean, you can bring out like Ursh now, but like Ursh, you do pressure with Stellar CC now, yeah. So you can Expanding Force and Stellar CC, yeah. My question is, like, let's say you switch Ogre Pawn out into... does Terapagos survive? Like, I think people have been using super, super defensive Terapagos. Yeah. You need the KO here. And it also could have been, what, Psyshock plus Close Combat into the Terapagos. Oh, sorry, it's Expanding Force. I keep saying Psyshock, yeah. So he does end up going for it, which is the right play here. Covers for the Intimidate. But now you are stuck with a -1 attack, -1 defense, -1 special defense Urshifu for the remainder of the game. And there is Rillaboom as well as Rock Ogre Pawn. There's Fake Out pressure here as well. The Whimsicott is the last pick here, just ends up being completely useless for Robbie. Like, I think if Whimsicott's coming out in this matchup, it needs to hit the field sooner to get that tail, or like... Tailwind actually not as important. It's more important for, in my opinion, Light Screen and Encore. And it was probably like the worst final option for Robbie here. You do have Moonblast, I guess, to pressure with damage here. Like Moonblast plus Surging, but you probably want a Tailwind. There's also Fake Out pressure from the Incense. You could Fake Out into the Urshifu. He's going to decide to just attack here, which means you obviously risk Fake Out plus Power Whip. The other question is how fast Whimsicott is, but my guess is it's slower than Ogre. Yeah, Marco just goes for Fake Out. Fake Out Cudgel here is really safe. You like split your damage here, so it says, look, even if you end up tearing here, it's fine. The problem here is the Urshifu being... well, he went for Aqua Jet, right? He's going for Encore. Like, if your Urshifu were slower, which it normally is, you could just Moonblast plus Surging, but I'm guessing the Whimsicott here is slow. Oh, did he time out? Either way, yeah, he's slower with the Whimsicott. Dominique Johnson says, I think Tailwind Protect always won there for Robbie. I don't think it was a guaranteed win because you still have to deal with Rillaboom in the end game, and Rillaboom, like, is obviously pretty scary, but Fake Out plus Tailwind definitely would have been a lot stronger of a play. Yeah, and it would have been safer to go, relatively safe to go for as well. I think Whimsicott just didn't do anything in this game, basically. And I don't think it's a bad Pokemon to bring in the matchup, but if you're bringing Whimsicott out, you essentially, in my opinion, need it to hit the field sooner to put on some pressure with Light Screen. Or Encore. Like, I think Terapagos got to Calm Mind for free twice in this game. Tailwind does nothing? I disagree, since the Ogerpon is faster without the Tailwind. If you Tailwind, then you outpace Ogerpon the subsequent turn with both of your Pokemon. But I think the reality is that Rillaboom in this endgame was really scary to deal with anyway. I was thinking Marco would bring Heatran to deal with Whimsicott in this game, but Whimsicott basically... like, I guess this is what's interesting, because it's like Robbie brought Whimsicott, but it didn't even accomplish much. So if you're Robbie, like, do you decide to, like, think about bringing it back into this matchup? I think it's still fine to bring, but it needs to hit the field, basically, like, on turn 3, if... yeah, in this kind of situation. Okay, so Incin plus Ogre here. Once again, I mean, it's just a run back from game 1. Okay, So yeah, he's thinking about the hard switch immediately here, which is what I like to see. Like I think this is what I wanted to see in game 1. Calyrex protects. Calm Mind comes out. The problem here is Instant could just parting shot and go into Ogre Pawn, but it's going to be knockoff. Okay. However, now you could just protect with the... Whoa. You could... What? You could protect with the... Oh, the stream's current bitrate is lower than the recommended bitrate. Interesting. Maybe that's why it's been lagging. Okay, I will figure that out in a bit. Okay, Marco actually hard switches in this position. Into Rilla. Yeah, I like that. I think it's Marco recognizes the threat of Encore and light screen. So I like Robbie's approach here. I think this is what I wanted to see in the previous game. Yep, you kind of feel forced to go for that Encore. Nasty plot comes out, knock off. Yeah, this is a really great adjustment by Robbie now. The scary thing is you still don't get that much value. It's like with Instant and Terapagos, like Calyrex can only really deal damage to like one Pokemon at any point rather than what it wants to do best, which is like doing a ton of damage altogether to both of your opponent's Pokemon. Yeah, I don't know what the... I'll look into the bitrate stuff. I also am only going to be able to stream one more round, unfortunately, but I'll look into the bitrate stuff for day 2 and for finals, because I'd like to do all of that, ideally. Okay, U-turn. And parting. Yeah. The downside of Whimsicott in this matchup is, like, you're only bringing it to deal with Terapagos. Like, Moonblast isn't going to do very much. The Encore pressure is, like, okay. But basically, as soon as Whimsicott hits the field and Terapagos leaves, Whimsicott kind of feels forced to switch, right? And now the Calyrex has Terra'd earlier in this game, so it means that Terapagos is a lot scarier. This turn is interesting because you could theoretically go for Expanding Forest close combat, but the parting shots into the Urshifus have been killer. And like Marco could just switch Instant back in right now. So Instant comes in. Rilla pivots. Into Instant. Yeah, I think that switch is relatively safe. Robbie could have gone for Surging. The problem, though, is that Marco's got Helmet on the Instant, so even if you go for Surging, like, you're just going to take so much damage from your own end. And Terapagos, even without any Calm Mind boost, still happy to just go for... The crit definitely feels bad, but even without the crit, like, it's like you're still vulnerable to just fake out plus another Terra Starstorm. Like, the Terapagos here just, once again, does not take much damage from Calyrex. Marco did a really good job recognizing, look, I don't really care about Whimsicott. I'm actually willing to give up my free Calm Mind boost. Getting Encore would be really bad and like takes away a lot of momentum for me. Oh, he timed out? Did he time out? Wait, did he time out there? Did he get it in on time? I like the Rilla switch here, by the way, because like often what you expect is the Calyrex to protect, and I like Robbie not protecting here in front of the obvious fake out, but yeah. Now you just eat up so much damage. And now, unfortunately, it's like Whimsicott was brought in order to try to deal with Terapagos, but Terapagos isn't even going for these Calm Minds. And so you can bring Urshin, and it's actually going to be the Whimsicott coming out, okay? You can finally set up a light screen, at least. He's going to go for Moonblast here. I think that makes sense this turn. Yeah, Moonblast parting. I think the... What's really hard about this is, like, Robbie's goal is to double up onto Terapagos with the knockout, which is actually what he was able to accomplish in that previous game, but he dedicated a lot of resources to get to that game state, and Terapagos did too much work at that point for even, like, Marco was happy to take that trade. But Terra Starstorm comes out. Oh, another crit. I mean, that just, like, seals the game, I think, immediately. Parting shot there. I mean, parting shot into Ursh is nice, right? Because then you do threaten with Moonblast, but you don't have stellar close combat anymore available to you. And so Marco could just like pivot it Instant for an Intimidate and then continue to click Terra Star Storm. But the crits have definitely been really rough in this game, I think. Ursh comes in. Yeah, I mean, now the game just feels over. Because Instinct can just pivot in for Intimidate. Ogerpon also threatens with Power Whip and IB Cudgel. Yeah, Cudgel just KOs. Whimsicott being slower here also, I think, is the downside. It didn't set up Tailwind in this game. Yeah, it does a lot, but not enough. The crits were pretty unfortunate in this game, though. Definitely a bummer to see. Like, I think it's already not the easiest for Robbie. And I mean, I think this is Marco just recognizing, like, hey, like, it's really hard for Shadow Rider to do much if I have Instant plus Terrapagos, right? So, yeah. I think Robbie brought the right Pokemon. Like, you know, you can always ask yourself, was there anything else I could have brought differently? In game 1, I guess you could bring Indeedee for Psychic Terrain, honestly, but like Rilla and Instant are switching out so frequently that it probably doesn't make that much sense. Ogerpon definitely made things a lot more challenging. But I think Marco did a good job of just pivoting out. Oh, Michael Kelsius. Wait. I wanted to see what the European players are using. So Luka's using his same team from Worlds. Just with some updated EV spreads. Marco is using what we just saw. We saw Victor on stream already. All of them have actually been featured on stream already. That's cool. Oliver is using his Kyogre Roaring Moon stuff. He's like the premier user of this. We've got Michael Kelsch using Zama. Basically very similar to the Worlds team, but with the Mungus over Rilla, and then Chiyu over the Entei. And then Ursaluna Blood Moon here. He's been killing it on the online circuit recently. Wolf using Koraidon Parish. Marcus Dion using the team that he almost just won a special event with. Justin Tang using the team he won regionals with. Nothing too crazy here. Let's see what other regions we got. I really hope we get one more game before I have to leave. Yeah, this is sick. Alchemy, Ice Rider, Water Pond. That was really cool. And then Joji Kaeda using Ice Rider with Grimmsnarl. Raging Bolt, Urslando. Justin switched to... Wait, what did he switch to? He switched to Fire... Wasn't he on Fire Pond? He won regionals with max HP, like near max defense Fire Palm. Yeah, he had Fire Pond on the original team. Wait, he switched to Rock Pond? Isn't it? Wait, it's Fire here. I'm confused. Did they get the graphic wrong? Like this is actually Rock Ogre Pond? Because it's Fire in the graphic. Oogie. How close are we to the next round being up? Oh my god. Wait, there's still so many matches left. I mean, this tournament is huge. It's literally the largest tournament ever, so not shocking, but let's see who we got at the 4-0s. James Evans, Jody, Wolf, Marco potentially, Luka Cherry Bellies 4-0. Kyle Livinghouse, Sanvius 4-0. He's won this tournament before as well. Paul Chua at 4-0. Big back-to-back wins for Paul. He's also won this tournament before. Yosuke is 4-0, dropping Riley to 2-2. Wow. Brendan's still playing. Robbie beats Renzo. Aurelian Sola at 3-1. Kylan Van Severn at 3-1. Nicholas Kahn at 3-1. Crazy to run Parrish in an Urshifu dominated format. Yeah, the reality is when you have Flutter, Koraidon, and Screamtail, like Urshifu actually really struggles against all of those because you just get popped by like Moonblast or like Icy Wind into close combat. And Parrish is only one part of the team, right? I think people look at that team and think it's only Parrish, but you don't need to play the Parrish mode at all. You can go very offensive with Flutter, Koraidon, for example, and yeah, just like blow things up with Icy Wind into close combat and Flare Blitz. Federico at 3-1, Chop Across at 3-1. But yeah, I think the key thing to note is it's like Parrish, like Wolves Parrish teams aren't just Parrish, right? Like you have actually really strong offense from it as well. Parrish is just a component of it. And it's really scary to deal with the combination of offense plus Parrish. Toller at 3-1. Terran Birdie, Zoe Lowe. Oh, Del Pidio. There's so many people playing in this. It's crazy. Anyone have an ETA until next round? Unfortunately not. Is there any Eternatus stall team? Probably. That's been picking up, I feel like, in the format, but it's a good question. I would be curious. Let's see. Yuki won. Brendan lost, unfortunately. Thank you, Leah. Appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in, and I'm glad you could tune in from South Korea. Very cool. Thank you for the very generous donation. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a great day as well. Thank you for tuning in. Junxie at 3-1. Let's see, who's on Tournament Life? Aaron Trailer at 3-1. Alberto Lara at 2-2, playing down from 1-2. It's always fun to see like who are like the super good players that are like on the lower tables that have the potential to make like the undefeated run in the last few rounds of the day to like still make it to day 2. Do we know how many people are playing in EUIC? I think it's like 1,200. Do I prefer restricted or non-restricted formats? I prefer non-restricted formats personally. Let's see. Who do we got down here? Okay, in the meanwhile, I actually do want to watch the second round on stream as well. Luka Cherry Belly against Gabriel Agatti. Oh, whoa. Is this? I haven't seen this before. U-turn over or close combat on Urshifu. I know that's what Arabego was trying out. If you want to see the records, check out the link in the description. Should be linked to Arcanine. Yeah, so the main things here, like the main change is just U-turn in terms of move changes, but I think Luka's EV spreads are a little bit updated as well. And then Agatti's team here is really interesting, right? Because it's like you have no Whimsicott and you've got Chien-Pao instead as the fire type user. So I think, yeah, what's scary in this matchup is that, like, there's no Tailwind from this side, but there's Tailwind on Luka's end, right? So Luka just can always maintain a speed advantage, which is a really big deal. Agatti's response to it would be to bring out his own Trick Room. Missing your video uploads, what I've been up to recently? Just working, man. Starting a new job, moved to a new city. Adjusting. Okay, so instant pivots out. Into Iron Hands. It's always a pretty safe Protect plus Tailwind turn 1. Just Draco. This is something that I think players actually don't go for often enough, which is a turn 1 Draco, so I like that. Now you do pressure with Moonblast and Surging. You could obviously switch out as well. You do risk Fake Out plus Draco into this slot. Does the new job get Fridays off? No. I will unfortunately have to end the stream after the next round to go to work. This turn, Luka was hoping to see a Terra come out from Agatti's side. And you wanted to get damage. He thought it'd be like Terra Miraidon, because you could obviously double up onto Miraidon. Yeah, Draco just nukes it now. So it's a pretty good start to it for Agatti, honestly. I think like Whimsicott's just not doing very much. And it's just a double KO. The problem though is now you do get 2 free switch-ins if you're Luka. And the Miraidon, as you can see, is really bulky. So it's like Fairy Terra Miraidon with Dazzling Gleam is just super sick here. So Luka can just send it now. Yeah, I think you just always go for Draco here. Or sorry, with Dazzling. And then you could just Dazzling Cudgel or Woodhammer into the... Interesting. I was thinking I mean, I think this makes sense because you're... You know that the opposing Miraidon's at -2. I do just wonder, like, okay, like, this is the problem now. Agatti has to deal with Dazzling Gleam spam, and Dazzling Gleam 2-shots literally everything on his team. Which is really tricky. So Dazzling comes out. Oh, it's so strong. And I think the problem here is you can't actually reliably one-shot the Miraidon right now. Especially with the bulk that it has. So it's like, basically, Luka's win condition in this matchup feels like just get Tailwind up and then just spam Dazzling Gleam against everything. Because there's no defensive response on the opposing side, and Miraidon is bulky enough that the only way you can really one-shot a Fairy Terra Miraidon maybe is if you get a Specs Electro Drift off into that slot. It's really hard to do that, though, when you have Follow Me pressure. I like what Agatti was going for here, though. If you actually knock out the Ogre Pawn there, you then can just bring out your Miraidon Terra Electro Drift. Oh, he actually brings out hands here. I'm surprised Miraidon didn't come out. It does give you another Fake Out. Yeah, it gives you another Fake Out right now. Fake Out, and then you bring out Miraidon, and then you pressure with Electro Drift. There's Fake Out. Cudgel comes out. Oh, it doesn't even KO instant. Although, okay, I was gonna say you. Oh, U-turn went into. I mean, the Ogre Pawn there, obviously expecting Spiky Shield there. Agatti probably could have just won the game if he had attacked the Ogre Pawn there. No more terrain. Oh, full screen? True. Yeah, I mean, like, I would expect Agatti's Miraidon to be faster, right? So now you can Terra your Miraidon defensively. Yep. And then you can just go for, honestly, your own Dazzling Gleam. I feel like Agatti should win this with double Fake Out. Oh, he is slower. Wow. Okay. He goes for Drift as well. He gets the crit. Woodhammer, does this... I mean, you just faint from recoil now, right? Does it faint from recoil? Does it hang on? It's 4 HP? Oh my gosh. I mean, yeah, you spiky here, right? And then you hope for a crit with Cudgel. I was thinking you could Dazzling Gleam if you're a Agatti there, because you knock out Ogerpon and then you have Fake Out plus Dazzling Gleam, but maybe he was worried even 2 Gleams wouldn't knock out Miraidon with Terrain. Tailwind? No, Tailwind expired. That's actually really interesting that Luka's Miraidon is still faster, even with all the bulk that he has. I'm really curious about the EV spreads then. Okay, yeah, you're just hoping to not get crit by Cudgel now. But it's scary. It's high crit chance. Yeah, and it crits. Wow. Oh. Luka definitely knows, like, I'll take the win. But, jeez. Oh, man. I wonder if 2 Gleams would have knocked out Miraidon. Like, 2 Gleams plus Fake Out would have knocked out Miraidon. I feel like it would have, honestly. So, yeah, I was thinking he could have locked in. But, I don't know. It's like, it feels so bad to lose to that crit, but it is a higher crit chance than normal, right? A lot of important information from both players' ends. Like, I do think, like, having the double Fake Out into the Specs Miraidon in the endgame was really, really huge. The last 3 attacks were crits. Wait, really? Oh my gosh. Wait, yeah. Although, I don't think this crit mattered. Yeah, how much would this... No, I don't think this crit mattered either. So I think the only crit that actually was relevant was Cudgel onto Iron Hands, but still. That's crazy to see all those back-to-back crits. Yeah. I think, like, Luka was actually off to a really tough start in this game, and I think, like, the Urshifu lead was not very powerful. So I'm not sure I would lead Ursh. But the value of leading Urshifu actually is to deal with Chien-Pao, because with the Mystic Water, you can just Tailwind Surge and KO, or force a switch. Yeah, I don't think Ivy Cudgel needs increased crit rate. Like, Ogerpon's already a good enough Pokemon. Was an Ogerpon -2 attack? Yeah, but Miraidon's at, like, what, 30% there with the Terra? I would still expect Woodhammer to KO there. If it weren't Terra, then definitely not, because you resist, but it's neutral, right? But maybe it did. I don't know Agatti's EV spread, and given that he's slower than Luka's Miraidon, which is already looking to be pretty bulky, which I would guess makes it slower, then maybe it was like super defensive Miraidon and actually could survive. So either way, I like Luka's decision to just go with Miraidon here. 60%? Wait, the Miraidon was at like 30%, right? Let's see. Oh, wait, we saw it do go for Woodhammer here, right? Oh, but it didn't Terra yet. No, it did Terra. Yeah, just 8 Gleam. It was at 60% at the start of the turn, but it ate the Dazzling Gleam. I would guess the Woodhammer crit did not matter there personally, but we obviously don't know the EV spreads. Okay, either way, in game 2, I do like the adjustment to go with Miraidon lead. -276 into... I mean, yeah, first of all, that's max HP Miraidon, which would be really uncommon, and even then, it's still like 30%, so it could matter. If you're running a crazy spread and Agatti's Miraidon is max HP at Worlds. Yeah, maybe then. It certainly could have mattered. Like, with the calc that you're posting, basically it could like the crit makes it relevant. Yeah, like the crit is relevant in the sense that it's not a guaranteed KO. Either way, yeah, like Luka definitely needed to get lucky to win that endgame. I'm still curious if Agatti had a more safe endgame of just fake out Dazzling Gleam, because if you knock out the Ogre-Pond, you eliminate the chance of crit. But then you lose if the fake out plus double Dazzling Gleam doesn't knock out Miraidon. We also could have seen U-turn go into the Ogre-Pond slot, but I think the way Agatti played that endgame makes sense, and Luka had to take some risks to even keep himself in the game. Anyway, Wims Miraidon here against Chien-Pao Miraidon. So I think the thing here is that, like, Dazzling is really scary, but you do have the Focus Sash, right? So you could Fairy Terra your Miraidon, just Dazzling Gleam plus, like, Icicle Crash. Oh! What? Okay, clearly Miraidon's bulky. Like, it lived a Fairy Terra Specs Dazzling Gleam. I also wonder how much special attack investment this is running, but that's crazy. Oh my gosh. Yeah, not needing a Terra to survive. I mean, I really want to know its EV spread then. That certainly does make the Woodhammer calc more relevant, honestly. Like, maybe it actually could have survived then. Good call out on it being max HP at Worlds as well. That's crazy, though. Oh my gosh. I want to know what the full EV spread is to survive Specs Dazzle from Miraidon. That's crazy. I think Miraidon's like easily the most important Pokemon in this matchup for Luka, so the fact that you lose it immediately doesn't feel great. Now, you do have decent offense right now. And Chien-Pao being on the field is actually kind of awkward because it is dropping Iron Hands' defense as well. But yeah, you feel pressured by the fake out. So it's going to pivot out. Could have been surging here this turn. Did he just win on turn 1, or was there only a mass advantage? I don't think the game is over yet, but I think it is really, really hard to come back from. Because, like, Wims isn't doing that much. Oh, my gosh. That's a lot of damage. Nice U-turn play, though. I like it. Surging doesn't KO hands since you can't Terra. You already Terra'd with Miraidon. I think the scary thing here is Agatti has so much fake-out pressure and Intimidate, and that's what makes this really tough. It's like Luka normally doesn't care about fake-out that much when you have Covert Cloak on Wims and Farigiraf on your team, but he hasn't been bringing Farigiraf in this matchup at all, so without the Farigiraf, it's a lot tougher. And so basically, Agatti is free to just keep cycling fake outs. He has a lot of pivoting here with the U-turn and the Volt Switch as well. Your goal ideally is to just get one more knockout. And Moonblast plus Woodhammer doesn't even KO the Iron Hands there. So constant cycling here from the Incineroar. Yeah, you really needed that KO. Now you just get one more knockout. Ursh comes out. You still have fake out pressure. I mean, you do have a ton of offensive pressure right now with this duo, right? Like, and you have speed control as well. And there's no fake out this turn. So, like, this is a key turn for Luka. The question is, does Gotti feel like, yeah, so you switch an instant here. If the damage was flipped here, you get a double knockout. Then it's, what, hands plus Chien-Pao? And then you could protect here with the Urshifu. Maybe he was probably just expecting the switch the other way around in that position. I think the problem is now you get another fake out off. Yeah. Fake out. And the fake out actually does enough to knock out the Whimsicott. That's awesome. That's cool to see. So even with Covert Cloak, it does just enough. I think if Whimsicott survives that, actually, Luka wins. Because then you get the Moonblast off. You KO this. Instant now Terras. I like that the Ghost Terra here to survive the Surging and let the Urshifu KO itself from Rocky is really clever. Yeah, this turn one was just crazy. Like, having a Miraidon survive Specs Fairy Terra Dazzle. You know, what is the calc there? Let's take a look. Let's see. Urshifu, or sorry, Miraidon. Into Miraidon. Didn't even Terra. So let's say your max HP. Wow. Okay. I mean, first of all, it has to have a ton of HP investment, right? If you're just like 4 HP, obviously you're not going to survive. So someone said max HP. And even if you're like modest max, you can actually still survive. This probably has like a lot less special attack investment, for example. But yeah, it's still possible to get the knockout. I'm really curious what the special attack investment here is on Miraidon on Luka's end. Basically, okay, so I think it's like if you're Agatti, the adjustment you might expect to see is Farigiraf now from Luka's end. Because Agatti's just been spamming Fake Out this entire set. So he goes instant Champao, which I like a lot, honestly. Like, you pressure with Fake Out, you pressure with Glacial, or not Glacial Lance, Icicle Crash here. Miraidon is the key tool for Luka, right? So, like, Agatti ideally does not want to take more than, like, 1 Dazzling Gleam max. Jody versus Joe in round 5. That's sick. Nice. Dazzling Gleam and Tailwind. Okay, so this is cute, right? Because you actually can survive this combo with both of your Pokemon. So Agatti, one play he could make is Icicle Crash plus Flare Blitz. He has Flare Blitz on instant, right? Yeah, he does. It's actually a really interesting instant set because it's not Assault Vest. It's still Rocky Helmet. But yeah, I think basically, let's see, turn 1 of this game. Oh, that's the end of the game. Yeah. So no Fake Out comes out here from Agatti's end, and that's because I think at this point he's really expecting Farigiraf to be an adjustment from the opposing side. But Luka doesn't bring the Farigiraf, which is a really... If he doesn't lead, like at least switch it in on turn 1. So Agatti is like hoping to see Farigiraf come into the slot, no Farigiraf, and he goes for Icicle Crash plus U-turn. Honestly, actually, based on how bulky Miraidon is, I actually don't think a Flare Blitz even would have knocked out there. I was wondering if Icicle Crash plus Flare Blitz is enough, thanks to Sword of Rune, but it's so tanky here. But yeah, obviously, Agatti here could have just gone for like Fake Out plus Icicle Crash, which would have done a ton of damage. And then actually, how much damage did he take from Gleam? Yeah, so basically, if you go Fake Out Icicle Crash, then turn 2, you can just Protect and then Flare Blitz. Because I think with the Fake Out chip onto the Miraidon, Flare Blitz then gets the knockout with Sword of Rune. So this was already a really key turn 1, because now the problem is Miraidon still pressures with Dazzling Gleam afterwards in subsequent turns, right? So Hands comes out. Now this pressures Fake Out onto this slot, but the problem is Tailwind has been set up, so now Whimsicott can just Moonblast into this slot. So I think for Luka, it's like if you just get 2 Dazzling Gleams off in this matchup, you probably win. Because Agatti has no response really defensively to it. Yeah, I like the decision to just Dazzling Moonblast here. No need to go for anything crazy. Like, yeah, Hands can go for Fake Out onto this slot, but then Champao just falls to Moonblast, right? Like, there's no fairy resistances on the opposing side. So Instinct comes back in. Fake Out. The amount of bulk on the this could have been that could have been Champao Sucker Punch here, by the way, to maybe put it in Fake Out KO range. Now you can go for Fake Out plus an attack with Iron Hands here, I think. Double up onto Miraidon. So the expectation is maybe for Miraidon to switch out in this position. I think Luka didn't bring Farigiraf because he felt like the Urshifu and Ogerpon were both just like too important in terms of damage output. But I do think Farigiraf actually would have been great here because it would just block all the Fake Out cycling. Champao Pivot. Hoping like maybe with Sword of Rune you get a little bit more damage off. Now this is scary, right? It's like, yeah, you have Sucker Punch, but this can just Aqua Jet plus Dazzling Gleam. Like, there's nothing stopping Gleam plus Aquajet. Yeah, like it's really safe to go for. So like Agatti basically loses 2 Pokemon this turn. This is, by the way, where the defense on Miraidon really played a key role in this matchup, because if you don't have that much HP investment, you would faint to all the combinations of like fake outs in this matchup. But Miraidon was bulky enough to survive Ice Skull Crash, U-turn, and 2 fake outs, even with Sword of Rune active. Oh, instant pivoted out. Okay, so I think Agatti here was like really hoping to see this switch out, because like this is the most important Pokemon in the matchup, right? And now you just eat up Specs Dazzling with both of these when they're at full HP. Oh my gosh, yeah. I think it would have been better for Agatti to just sacrifice what he had on the field and play an endgame with hands plus the Miraidon. But giving up Miraidon, I think, just spells disaster immediately from this in this game. So, yeah, I am really surprised to see him make that switch here, because I think there's very little reason to not Aqua Jet plus Dazzling Gleam here, in my opinion. Because you still have Tailwind up, right? So you don't have to worry about Sucker Punch. Yeah, it also goes to show that in game 2, like, Miraidon survived the Dazzling Gleam, but it's just a damage roll on potentially getting the one-hit knockout. Because you can't reliably EV Miraidon to survive that attack. Bananas. I like bananas more than pineapples. Yeah, I think this game just fell over once you give up Miraidon, because I think like Agatti's win condition is actually his own Miraidon spamming Dazzling Gleam. This is also, you know, someone I was asking earlier, why not bring Farigiraf, and I think Ogerpon gives you a more reliable like Pokemon to survive Dazzling Gleam from the opposing side. Wims comes out. But yeah, now it's just too hard, right? Because like you're facing so much offensive pressure from Aqua Jet, and everything is so low that it just feints to a single Aqua Jet. This turn was also... Wait, hold on. Let's scroll back. So... Yeah, we see KO. Now you have Fake Out pressure here. Fake Out plus Sucker, but now you have no Fake Out pressure available. You have Aqua Jet pressure available. It's really safe to just Aqua Moonblast, right? Like, yeah, could have been a Sucker Punch there, but it doesn't really make a difference, honestly. I think it's just like Miraidon and hands, this double switch in turn ends up being a complete disaster. I think Agatti was taking a really big risk here, and I'm not sure it was worth it because there was very little reason to not go for yeah, I guess just hoping to survive, since we did see it surviving game 2 on turn 1. But I don't know. I think I would have liked to see Agatti sacrifice something. I'm guessing he was just expecting Miraidon to maybe go for a switch. Because the problem is, even if Dazzling Gleam isn't KOing, it's putting everything in Aqua Jet KO range from Urshifu, which is really scary. So, I think here I like the idea of actually just losing both of your Pokemon. So you have full HP hands plus full HP Miraidon. I think this was the turn that just ended the game, personally. So, yeah. What time is it? 8:23. Oh, man. Is the next round even up? What? Oh. We've had... I see. The stream is just... down. I haven't seen this before. Just like a break like this. Wow. Okay. Technical difficulties. It's not just me. It's not just me. Excited to see me in Draft League. How do I rate my chances? Honestly, I think... like, I would rank myself in the middle, where like I have draft experience, but I think I have less time to prep, and I don't have a front office, which I would like to maybe put one together. But I think like the combination of some people taking it like super seriously and then putting in more time, like draft is, I think like your preparation is definitely correlated to how well you do. I think the draft I have fundamentally is good, and obviously like I feel confident in my play. But yeah, I think I would, I don't know, rank myself on like the upper half of the league, but there's so many good players and so many good, like, and I think it's like the non-VGC players will have like really strong people helping them, like get up to speed as well. And I wouldn't underestimate anyone in the league. I'm guessing we didn't have an actual game, right? Wow, I was hoping we'd get a couple more rounds in before I have to leave, but that might be it for the first half of the co-stream. We got 4 rounds? Oh, I guess day 1 is only 8 rounds now rather than 9, but yeah. This is a really sick matchup. I would actually pick this for stream potentially. Simone versus Mao. Who got, I think, top 4 at Worlds, and then Simone won this event a few years ago. Did he win a regionals or special event last year as well? Jody versus Joe is obviously sick. Who else do we have? Gavin Michaels. Whoa, OCIC champion and U.S. Nationals champion 2013. Marco is 4-0. Paul versus Eden is sick. Eden won regionals earlier this year. Wolf versus a Japanese player. Cool. Italian battle here. Danielle got top 16 at Worlds, I want to say, in 22, right? He works pretty consistently with Flavio. Toller. What do you do as a caster if the stream goes offline? Do you just chill or do you keep casting as it goes on? It's a good question. I guess it depends on what the case is. It's like if you're casting and the like internet is wiped, you'll probably still be casting. Oh, we're back. Oh no, we're not back. I don't in this case, my guess is they're not casting. Yeah. Anyway, I actually have to, like, I guess the timing is good. I gotta leave pretty soon anyway, but I just want to go through the rest of the 3-1s and the pairings. Actually, let's see. Did Alex Gomez? He's still in it. Rios. Oh, right. They're playing like right next to each other. This is going to be a fun one to watch. Like, does Alex and Eric pull off the comeback and win 4 games in a row? Because also, if they want to top cut this tournament now, they have to essentially win every game on here on out, which is also really hard, right? Like, because there's like 4 games left today and then another 3 tomorrow. So like 7 games left. All right, guys. It's 8:30 a.m. Thank you for joining me for the beginning of EUIC. I will be back. I'm debating if I want to if I want to stream the rest of the games when I'm back from work today, so 4 rounds, and then like do all of day 2 live. Championship Sunday at least will be easier because it's a more US friendly time, but the European time zones are not great. Oh man, an entire section apparently disconnected in the previous round. But yeah, I wish I could do the rest of the rounds, but I gotta get ready for work. But thank you for tuning in. My hope is to stream all of day 2 and finals. And yeah, go live. We'll see. Day 2 starts are what? I mean, these start at 3 a.m. They start at 3 a.m. So we'll see if I can go to bed early enough today to wake up tomorrow to do it. But like the latter half of day 2, definitely will be able to watch live. And then Sunday, just the 3 finals in juniors, seniors, and masters, more doable. Sebastian Escalante at 2-2. I think I'm mainly curious if any really big name players have already been knocked out. Let's see. Man, there's so many people playing in this. There's like, what, 1,200 people? That's crazy. All right, guys. I will catch you maybe later today. If not, then definitely tomorrow and Sunday. Thanks for tuning in. And yeah, I hope to get some Road to Ranks up recorded shortly as well. But enjoy the rest of your day. Hope you enjoy watching the rest of the stream if/when it comes back on. And I will see you all next time. Okay, bye-bye.